Brave Lucina doesn't replace the buff bots we have, but she complements them and has a niche for herself in the fact that she spurs everybody into action instead of being needy and keeping everybody next to her. Greetings and salutations, my name is Deltrin, doing builds for Brave Lucina. I am so excited to go through this with you, go over her matchups, go over a few builds with her, but first, let's get her digits. So we're looking for 42 hit points, 35 in the offensive stats, 32 in the defensive stats, and we have one of those and really close on another. 41 hit points, that's just below the threshold I like to look for. 41 hit points tends to still melt away pretty fast, especially if you're slightly careless. You're not gonna, you might live through one hit or two, but when it comes down to it, if you're not paying attention, your Blucina is gonna just bite the bullet. Blah. Attack is 34. Spoilers, her unique weapon has 16 might, so that brings her up to 50, which is really where I like to see the heroes. 36 speed. Oh, I like it. This means we could definitely leverage that speed if we want to turn her into a little killing machine. 27 defense is not bad. It's not something that you want to leverage a lot. It gets a little bump here with some of her skills, but when it comes down to it, it's still not to the level where you want to put her on the front line and let her tank. And resistance of 19. A low resistance. Who would have thought? One thing to note here is that the attacks, whenever we're looking at ordering people by attack, Brave Lucina has one of the best. And one thing to note that I didn't realize, all the blue infantry, 31's the lowest. That's that's pretty impressive. I mean, whenever you have people like Fur and Henry, I believe, who are in the 20s, and you're like looking at people like, what the heck is going on? To see a panel where everybody has at least an okay attack, that's awesome. Otherwise, we're right in the middle with hit points. Speed, we're at the very tippy top. Technically, there's also somebody with one more attack than us, but they're limited units, so they're not shown. Defense, Lucas is at the top. Resistance, Lucas is at the bottom. And like I said, really, there's a lot of heavy armor users within blue, so Lucina is actually towards the bottom of this, but it's not a terrible score. 27 is just fine. She can take a hit, but, you know, don't extend it past 1. Please. And, you know, resistance is resistance, whatever. Let's see what she swings with a Gersko goal is, if I did that right, I'm done with that one, is a good weapon for her. Might 16, gives her an additional 3 defense, we're up to 30 defense, 50 attack. That is wonderful. That's just with neutral IVs. And then, of course, that gives a spur bonus to only the melee, the physical, not melee, the physical people of attack and speed, which is really nice. That means you don't necessarily want her running around with a mage, but you know what? She's still going to be good in that particular case. Aether is a good skill for her. It gives her the hit points back as she starts to fight. It keeps her on the field a lot longer, especially with that really low, as far as a defensive unit, really low hit point total, and an almost okay defensive value there. Sturdy Blow is also here to help out, granting her attack and defense whenever she swings. And this is actually pretty nice on her. She can stand for quite a while with that particular skill on her. And Drive Speed 2 gives everybody plus 3 speed as long as they're within 2. You know, just keep your friends close. You don't have to hug them the whole time like a Hone buff giver does. You know, it's just, Lucina is, she's confident in herself. She believes that you could do your own thing. Let's take a look at the obituaries. 78, 3, and 87 out the gate. I like to see that high of a win ratio coming out because that usually means that you can push them up and over into something that is really impressive. And we can. But hold on a moment. We're going to go ahead and talk about the rest of this. 27, 5, and 136 on defense. Just a nice little sampling here of some of the important people we get. You know, Kagero, several different mages, Rice, you want to make sure you get him and kill him right away, otherwise he's going to wreck your entire party, just burn everything down. Arguably S++ tier there, and thank goodness we could kill off Rice. Reinhardt, Cordelia, several other mages, a lot of sword lords here. She's a good unit. She does her job very well, and I'm just happy. I'm so happy. Did it again.
As far as who we lose to the top line, there is the people we lose whenever we're initiating against, and shouldn't be surprised, Gemax users and Hector. Why are you initiating on Hector? Stop initiating on Hector. Otherwise, the people who break us there, we got ourselves Lynn and Sonia and Reinhardt. Whenever he initiates on us, wrecks us, so that's not very pleasant.
Now let's go over how to use Brave Lucina. Full disclaimer, I'm not a huge fan of the unit. I'm also not a huge fan of Ephraim or Erica, and really for the most reason the same thing is they're just buff bots. Now Lucina is a buff bot that also gives you support in the face stabby kind of way, in a way that Erica and Ephraim just can't match. That's a good thing though, because she doesn't give out the hone style buffs, which a lot of different abilities, specifically Blade Tomes, key off of. So you need to have some type of benefit there, but when it comes down to it, her spur style buffs are great. In order to find out if you really need her on a team, you need to take a look and consider if adding +3 attack and +6 speed to everybody on your team is worth it. Let me stop you from doing the calculations. Yes. It is worth it. That stat bump really does wonders. If you just look at the Brave Heroes alone, that more than triples Brave Ike's. Is like third, half-ish on Roy, and as far as Lynn goes, that only gives her 30 more kills, but you know what, she was already over 100. I think she's just being greedy at this point. Otherwise, Brave Lucina can actually deal some damage. She has a nice stat line for kills whenever coming right out the gate, and with a little bit of tweaking, you can actually make her into a nice little murder machine. Problem is that if you start making her really focused on something like that, you're gonna end up spreading her really thin, and it's very easy to do. It's just something that happens. You could go ahead and try to shore up her different deficiencies she has in this regard, but you're going to be giving up one thing or another for this. And more specifically, if you go with something, I know I'm jumping the gun, but if you go with something like Fury, then you're taking that penalty every time she attacks, and you're really just having it there so that hopefully she'll not take more than what that 6 damage would have been. If you give her something like Renewal, that's cool. You could go ahead and do that and try to make her also like a pseudo-healer, and that works out reasonably well, but then you're not really relying on her to stab anything in the face, so you're polarizing yourself again. If you go in the opposite direction and make her a killing machine, she still buffs people, but oddly enough, she's the one that needs the support now, not the other people. Although that's not necessarily a bad thing if you focus your team around her as opposed to the other people you're buffing. There's just some interesting dynamics here. It's a little tricky to use. You can't just throw her out there and expect her to perform at the top of her game. She does need a little bit of hand-holding. She does need a little bit of, not practice, just need to remember that while she does have 30 defense natively, her resistance is still terrible. Thank goodness. I was afraid that we'd have somebody who didn't have a terrible resistance for a change. And sorry, that did derail me. What you gotta remember is that 41 hit points is not a lot of hit points. 30 defense is nice, but it's not gonna keep you around forever. If you were going to use her super aggressively, then you need to give her support in the form of healer, in the form of a green mage. A fire mage. Or a green mage, you know what? If going the other way, you know what? You have her tag along with a green mage, and she's going to be very happy. If you have Sonia out there, or Merrick, because he's useful, or if you have female Robin, you'll be able to have Lucina there. And those are honestly great support options. Or of course you could have a healer supporting Lucina, and when it comes down to it, if you put them as allies in the support system, and if you have them running around the field together to support each other, you're going to get a lot out of it. Just remember, Lucina is not a island unto herself. She needs to have help, or needs to be helping someone else.
If you're looking for a few cheap upgrades, Reposition is nice on her. I might want to give it a try. If you haven't heard of Reposition, let me walk you through it. It takes one unit from one side of you and puts them on the other. You could also go a swap if you're trying to really protect like a mage or other squishy. Swap is alright in this case. Desperation is wonderful on her, especially if you're treating her aggressively. It lets her run around the battlefield with low hit points without very much of a care. Lancebreaker, of course, really is the B slot of choice that gives us the most extra kills just because. So if you want her to be able to ensure that she is protecting and killing everybody that might bother whoever you're buffing, then Lancebreaker sounds like a good idea, and Lancebreaker 2 is just fine. If we're going to go ahead and do some substitutions, Moonbow really sits well with her. Aether is okay on her, but Moonbow is wonderful. It gets her to the point where she can kill off a couple people that are a little bit troublesome. If you want to get rid of Sturdy Blow, you can go with Darting Blow. It does give you a lot more kills. And Life and Death 2 does wonders on her. It brings up her stats quite a lot, and if you're not using her to take a hit from anywhere, then you know what, this might be something you want to consider. And if you like your memes, you should like Wings of Mercy. It's pretty good on her. It'll let her zap into places, and the people who you teleport next to are going to get that buff immediately, so that's really nice. First build I want to show you is this one right here, where you get to act as a pseudo-healer. 128, yeah, the healer that kills a lot. 4 and 38. What we do is we put on Ardent Sacrifice, give ourselves noontime so that we can get that little bit of extra healing. Give her Life and Death 3. You're not supposed to be getting hit. You're supposed to be killing things and then giving people hit points back with Ardent Sacrifice. We have Renewal 3 here to make sure that we do have another steady source of hit points coming back to us. Keep Drive Speed 2. Don't see a reason to get rid of it. There are some neat things you could put in here, though. You could definitely put in a Hone if you would rather. You could go ahead and swap out for something like Savage Blow, because Savage Blow is just fun. Otherwise, or a threatened skill of your choice. It's very flexible, but you know what? As of recording, she's the only one that has Drive Speed. I would keep Drive Speed on her. And this works reasonably well, especially whenever you focus on that attack power. If you are a little bit nervous about putting Life and Death 3 on her, because it will whittle her down a bit, you could always go for Death Blow or Darting Blow. Death Blow is not going to be as beneficial, but it's safer because you're not relying on double hits, which will eventually get rid of all of your hit points. Noontime is here instead of what she default comes with, because it procs a little bit sooner, and that little extra damage is nice. And one thing that I've never liked about healing specials is that if you don't actually deal the damage, if the opponent didn't have the hit points for it, you don't get the bonus from it. So this just sort of shortcuts that issue, since, you know, if you're attacking somebody, you're going to be hitting them for a lot of damage anyway, and need to double tap quite a few people. So I prefer Noontime, but, you know, if you keep with one of her default skills, you'll be just fine. This is the build that I have on my Brave Princess. 132, 4, and 32 for defense. Reposition, because you need reposition. I put on Moonbow, Life and Death 3, Desperation 3, and keep the Drive Speed, as we've already talked about. Between Life and Death and Desperation, I call her Psycho-Lucina. And so with Psycho-Lucina here, tons of kills. She is a bit frail. You would much rather have her there running around and then have some type of archer or even a dagger user with that buff running around behind her to be able to help out and give her the assist that she needs in the corner cases. This build is pretty solid. It makes a unit that could become surprisingly thin-skinned, even thinner. So please be careful. Don't have her standing on the front lines if you're doing this. Keep her back until you're ready to strike, and then you just ram them down the enemy's throat. This works out rather well. And hey, do me a favor, if I give you something to chew on, hit that like button. If you like your Fire Emblem information hot and fresh like Grandma's cookies, hit that subscribe button. My name is Deltran. Thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate all of you, and until next time, take it easy.